I want to start with the most uncomfortable thing I learned in the last few years, and I want to deliver it as directly as I can. Because the whole video depends on you actually hearing the first sentence. You don't want confidence. You never wanted confidence. What you actually want is to stop caring what three specific people think of you. And the reason you never named it because the real answer feels meaner than the version where you tell yourself it's about confidence. That's the whole video. I'm going to spend the next 9 minutes proving it to you because I think it's the single most useful reframe in self improvement. And once you can see it, you can't unsee it. Let me start by telling you what confidence is sold as. If you type how to be more confident into YouTube right now, you'll get millions of results. Almost all of them teach the same thing: body language, eye contact, voice projection, dressing better, hitting the gym, cold approach, power poses, affirmations. The unifying assumption underneath every single one is that confidence is a skill, a trait, a muscle you build, something you accumulate. It isn't. Here's what confidence actually is. When you watch people who have it, confidence is not a thing those people built. It's a thing that showed up after they stopped doing something else. They stopped trying to win the approval of people whose approval they were never going to get. That absence is what we read as confidence. We mistake the absence of an old behavior for the presence of a new trait. This is why all the standard advice fails. You can't build confidence by adding things to yourself. You can only build it by removing something. And the thing you have to remove is invisible, which is why you've been working on the wrong problem for years. Let me show you what's actually going on. You walk into a room, you feel uncomfortable. You assume it's because you lack confidence, so you do the standard moves. Stand straighter, make eye contact, speak louder, tell yourself you belong. And it sort of works for 30 seconds and then the feeling comes back and you call yourself weak. You're not weak. You missed the diagnosis. You walked into that room and felt watched, not by the actual people in the room, by a different set of people. People who aren't there. People who haven't been there for years. The feeling of being watched is not coming from the present. It's coming from an imagined audience your brain has been carrying since you were 13. For most people, the audience has 3 or 4 members. Not random, specific. Sometimes it's a parent, the one whose approval you stop trying to get out loud, but never stop trying to get internally. You still measure yourself against what they would say. You're 28 and you're picking a job partly based on whether your dad will respect it. You're 32 and you're picking a partner partly based on whether your mom would approve it, or your family. These are all built-in audiences. Sometimes it's a peer group, often from high school or your early 20s. Not anyone you want to talk to anymore, but for some reason that specific group of people that unconsciously jury you, and you are performing for them. And when this happens, or when something bad happens, you imagine their reaction. They left your life 10 years ago. They're still in the audience though. Sometimes it's just an ex, the one you didn't fully recover from. Even though you tell yourself you did, you still imagine them seeing you on a good day. You still imagine them seeing you on a bad one. Every Instagram post is, in a small way, addressed to them, even when you don't realize it. Sometimes it's a future version of you. The you at 40 grading the you at 25. The you at 50 looking back at you and judging you when you were 30. The future self is also the audience. 3 or 4 of these, maybe 5, that's the audience. That's who you're auditioning for your own life. And no amount of working out, dressing better, making more money, or learning new skills is going to feel like enough because the audience is not going to be impressed. The audience never gets impressed. The audience exists to find what's wrong. This is the part I want you to really hear. The reason your confidence keeps disappearing is not that your skills are inadequate. It's that you're performing for an audience that was assembled when you were a teenager and has not been updated since. The audience does not know about your life now. They do not know about the things you built, the work you've done, the person you become. They're running on data that is 5, 10, sometimes 20 years out of date. They're critiquing the version of you that they last had access to. And you're letting them critique you even though they're not in the room. Even though some of them you have not seen in a decade. Even though one of them might not be alive anymore. Now, here's the move. The actual one. You cannot build enough confidence to drown out the audience. That doesn't work. You can never be enough for them because the audience is calibrated to never approve. That's its job inside your head. If it approved, you'd stop trying, and your 14-year-old self decided trying was the only way to be safe. So the audience keeps the pressure on forever. What you have to do instead is name the audience. Step 1. Sit down with a piece of paper or your notes app and write down the name of the people whose judgment you actually care about. When you imagine your life going well or badly, be honest. Don't write down the people you wish that were on the list. Write down the people who actually show up in your head, the ones you mentally explain yourself to, the ones whose imagined disapproval makes you slightly tighten in your chest. For most people, when they actually do this, the list is short, 3 to 5 names, sometimes it's fewer. Step 2, look at the list. Notice something. Most of the people on it are not currently in your life. Many of them have not been in your life for years. Some of them you have not spoken to over a decade. Some of them you would actively avoid if you saw them on the street. These are people whose opinions is ruining your life. Step 3. For each name on the list, ask one question. If this person walked up to me tomorrow and told me exactly what they think of me right now, would it actually change anything? Would I change my career, change my relationship, change my body, change my city, or change any of my choices? For most of the names on your list, the answer will be no. Not because you're heartless, because their opinion said out loud would carry less weight than their imagined opinion does inside your head. The audience inside your head has been promoted to a level of authority that the real person would never actually hold if they showed up. Step 4. This is where confidence actually happens. You let the audience members go one at a time. Not by forgetting them, not by hating them, just by demoting them. By writing down for each one the sentence, I longer need this person to approve me in order to feel okay about my life. That sentence is not going to feel true. The first time you write it, it might be ridiculous. That's fine. You're not trying to convince yourself in one sitting. You're starting a process that will take months, sometimes years. But the act of naming the audience and consciously demoting them is the work that all the confidence content on YouTube refuses to do. Step 5. Notice over the next few weeks when you feel watched in a moment where nobody is actually watching you, when you feel judged in a room where nobody is judging you. When you tighten up internally for no observable reason, ask yourself in that moment, which member of the audience just spoke? Name them out loud or in your head. The naming is the move. The naming is what slowly dissolves the audience. Not because you replace them with something else, because once they're named, they lose the invisibility that gave them power. Now, I want to address the obvious objection. Someone listening to this is gonna say, but Kaan, what if I name them and they're still there? What if I do all this and I still feel watched? Here's the truth. You probably will at first. Audiences this old don't disappear in a week. They were built into your nervous system over decades. They will visit. They will speak. The difference once you've named them is that you can hear them as voices instead of feeling them as facts. The feeling of being unconfident in a room becomes the recognition that a specific person is in your head, and that person doesn't get to make the decisions about how you walk into rooms anymore. That shift is what people call confidence. It's not louder or a better posture. It's the moment you can hear the old voice in your head and don't obey it. This is also why the people who actually have what we call confidence often don't seem to be performing anything. They look almost normal, almost relaxed. They aren't dressed better. They aren't necessarily better at small talk. They aren't even necessarily or more successful. They've just stopped carrying an invisible jury, and the absence of that jury makes them magnetic because everyone else in the room is exhausted from carrying their own. So, this week, sit down and make the list. Be honest about the 3 or 4 people. Most of them you'll be surprised by that they're not in your life anymore. Now, I want you to understand something. You don't want confidence. You want freedom from a small, specific, mostly imaginary group of people whose opinion of you been auditioning for since you were 14. Name them, demote them, watch what happens to your life when they're not in the front row anymore. The room is going to get quieter. That quiet is the thing you've been calling confidence. It was never about you, it was about them. And the second you can see that, you're already most of the way free.